Senator, I take that role, I take my oath very seriously.
All right, so what I'm
and I
asking-
take fair and free elections in this country very seriously.
We
that
all do.
information, our office is entitled to have that information. And
But
we
the
are
question
involved
here-
in litigation on that. And I
Here's the
assume we'll be
question
involved
I
in
have.
litigation with Vermont.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Before we dive in, make sure you hit that subscribe button and tap the notification bell so you don't miss any of my new breakdowns of what's going down in DC. These hearings are getting more intense by the week, and today we're talking about something that perfectly captures the political divide in Washington right now: the tense exchange between U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi and Senator Peter Welch of Vermont. This one got heated, and it says a lot about how Democrats are handling real oversight, especially when it comes to the border, elections, and health care. So let's unpack what just happened.
Thank you, Senator Schmidt. Senator Welch.
Thank you. Thank you, Attorney General Bondi. I have noticed that at various times when one of my colleagues is pressing you, you come up with something in their background. So I'll be waiting for my turn, but you don't have to do it right now. So let me get to my questions. One of the things that you mentioned, and I agree with this, that it's really tough on the various federal workforce, including our law enforcement folks, who are not getting paid because of the shutdown. Mm-hmm. I agree with that. But I also think that wasn't the whole story. There is an issue here that's going to affect Americans, whether they voted for President Trump or voted for Vice President Harris, and that is the loss of health care, where on November 1st, everyone who is getting Affordable Care Act help to buy insurance is going to get the notice of premium increases.
Now, Welch tries to play the reasonable centrist. He says, look, this isn't a partisan issue. Families in both red and blue states are going to suffer if health care support disappears. He even admits there are Trump voters in Vermont who will be affected. He frames it like, we just need to sit down and work this out together. But think about what's really happening here. Democrats like Welch are trying to act like they're the reasonable ones, but at the same time, they're holding the entire budget hostage over demands that benefit non-citizens. Pam Bondi isn't falling for that narrative. The left wants to make this about emotion, about compassion, when the real debate is about fairness and lawfulness.
And I got a letter just today from a Vermont family, nuclear family of 5, husband and wife, 54 and 55, with 3 kids, one of whom has acute myeloid leukemia. And the apprehension that they have is that if we don't solve this problem, and November 1 is a urgent date, then their family premiums will triple. It'll be beyond their ability to pay. So I'm assuming that with respect to the threat to health care for families in your state of Florida, in my state of Vermont, you would share that concern and hope that we would resolve that.
Senator Welch, I would be happy to speak with that family too, because there are many nonprofits that help with children with terminal illnesses, and I'm involved in some in Florida. So we would be happy to talk to you about that. As to health care, the government is shut down. It's my understanding, maybe you're not one of them, but because many Democrats want health care for illegal aliens, and that's what shut down the government.
Let me be clear.
That's one of the sticking points, and I don't know if you voted for that or not.
This actually is important to all of us, and the lament I have is that if this health care goes away, this premium support, it is really going to hurt families in red states and blue states. And in Vermont, I mean, we voted Democratic, but we have a lot of good folks who voted for President Trump, and their health care is jeopardized. And there's a November 1 deadline that is coming up. And the reason I'm saying this is that I think it's important for us to try to work out together a resolution that's going to be beneficial to people you care about in Florida and voted for President Trump, and people I care about in Vermont who voted in some cases for Vice President Harris and some for President Trump. So it's not just Democrats not wanting to negotiate. And in fact, we do want to negotiate. And that's why I'd encourage the president to encourage my colleagues on the Republican side to sit down with us and try to see if we can make some progress. Another topic, with the respect to voting rights in the letter that your voting rights chief sent out, we got one in Vermont, and it's a demand to get all the information on the voting file. And in that letter, in the announcement of that letter, the chief indicated an apprehension about the voting process being taken over by, quote, the left. Now, do you have any information with respect to Vermont about a takeover of the voting process by, quote, the left?
Senator, I'm not familiar with what you're referring to. We are currently involved in voter roll lawsuits in 6 states. Is that what you're referring to?
No, there's a letter that went out demanding that states, including Vermont, provide all the voting file information,
Right.
includes personal information. But when that letter was sent out,
That's perfectly legal.
but there was an assertion by the chief in this division that this was to deal with the fact that the voting process has been taken over by the left. So we got one of those letters in Vermont. And my question to you is, what do you mean by the left? And do you have any evidence that the so-called system has been overtaken by the left?
We must have fair and free elections.
No, I know that. But I'm asking for the specific basis.
And we will have fair and free elections in this country.
Okay, let me-
Senator, I'd be happy to talk to my chief. Who was it who said that?
It was your chief, which I assume you would know who that is. Here's the question here, okay? There is a point of view that is in dispute here about the fairness of elections. But you have the power as the as the Attorney General to use the authority of your office to make demands on states, and you did that with Vermont. That's within your right to do it. I'm not disputing your legal authority to do it.
Is Vermont disputing turning over the information to our office?
Vermont is, the Secretary of State is, and you can resolve that with her. But
And we have every right to have that information,
yeah, here's
Senator.
where I'm going.
Why wouldn't they want to turn it
You're
over?
a prosecutor with the awesome authority to make the decision that you're going to start an investigation against the state or against an individual. And I know from your experience as a county prosecutor and as the Attorney General in Florida, you took seriously that obligation to have a factual basis before you'd proceed, right?
Senator, I take that role, I take my oath very seriously.
All right, so what I'm
And I
asking-
take fair and free elections in this
No,
country
we
very
all-
seriously.
we all
And that
do.
information, our office is entitled to have that information.
But
And we
the
are
question
involved
here-
in litigation on that, and I
Here's the
assume we'll be
question
involved
I
in
have.
litigation with
We have-
Vermont.
We have a Republican governor in Vermont. We had our former Republican governor was the treasurer for many years, and also the Secretary of State with election responsibility. What I'm asking is, do you or does your head of this voting section have any factual basis that you can point to that justifies your demand that Vermont turn over all this confidential voting rights information?
As the questioning goes on, Welch tries to catch Bondi in a gotcha moment. He accuses her of talking about pending litigation when answering Senator Cruz's questions earlier, but refusing to discuss other pending cases with Democrats. It's honestly a classic DC tactic, accuse the witness of inconsistency to score points. But Bondi isn't rattled. She reminds him she only discussed facts that came out in open court. That's when Welch snaps and tries to press her about an investigation involving an FBI transfer of $50,000, a case he clearly thinks can make her look bad. But Bondi holds firm, saying the matter was resolved before her confirmation and that if he wants answers, he should talk to Director Patel. When Welch accuses her of knowing the answer, she immediately pushes back. Don't call me a liar. That's what separates Bondi from so many past attorneys general. She's not going to sit there and let bureaucrats or politicians smear her people. She's loyal, firm, and grounded in facts.
Well, it would remain confidential with my office, and you just said that you have a Republican governor, so it doesn't make sense what you just said. We've asked that of every state, Senator.
Right, and I'm asking about Vermont and what the factual basis is, but we can move on. You've mentioned that you can't discuss pending litigation, and I think the committee by and large accepted that answer. But I did notice that you spoke at great length about pending litigation, specifically with respect to the questions Senator Cruz asked you about the sentencing of the Kavanaugh defendant. That's pending, right?
He was sentenced to 8 years.
I understand that, but that's on appeal, right?
We will be appealing.
Right, so that makes it pending litigation. So you made an exception with respect to the Cruz questions.
Hold on. No,
but you didn't answer any of the questions that you said were pending at litigation from any of my colleagues.
Those were facts that came out at the sentencing hearing. You're welcome to see the transcript of the sentencing hearing
I understand
with all the
that.
gruesome details of what they threatened to do to Justice Kavanaugh and other justices.
I condemn what that person did.
That was the sentencing.
But the point here is that that's pending litigation. You indicated you're going to be appealing. It's your right to do that. And you would not, you use that justification to not answer many other questions.
Justification, you're an attorney, Senator.
Okay.
You realize that.
I do want to go back to Homan. There's a tape, right, with Mr. Homan? I mean, first of all, is there a tape that has audio and video of the transfer of the $50,000?
You would have to talk to Director Patel about that.
No, I'm talking to you.
I don't know the answer, Senator.
Yeah, you do know the answer to that.
Don't call me a liar.
I didn't call you a liar.
You just said I know the answer. I said I don't know the answer.
Well,
you have to talk to Director Patel. What I said is that investigation was closed.
If you don't know, why don't you know whether there was a tape and video?
Senator, I believe that was resolved prior to my confirmation as Attorney General.
Do you think that it is of public interest for the people to know what happened to the $50,000 that the FBI turned over to Homan?
Did you hear what I just said? That was resolved prior to my confirmation as Attorney General. That's why I said I would not know.
It's not resolved. There's $50,000. Homan has it, or somebody has it. Do you have no interest in knowing where it is?
You're not going to sit here and slander Tom Homan. The FBI and Deputy Director Blanche said there was nothing.
I'm not slamming Tom Homan. He got the $50,000.
Tom Homan is doing, how do you know that? Tom Homan is doing a great job, as our borders are, keeping your border state safe. You're a border state.
Thank you, Senator Welch. We're going to
Madam President, could I have 1 minute?
Not right now. At the end,
On a
if you wait, we'll talk
point of
about
personal
it.
privilege?
Not right now.
So
Senator
witness-
Tillis and many others have been waiting their turn.
I know,
So
but
you
this is
can
1
hold
minute,
until
and
the
it relates
end.
to testimony that she gave
No.
about me.
Senator Tillis, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. General Bondi, thank you for being here. I'm going to get parochial for a bit of time. Maybe I have some time for some of the other questions, but the eastern band of the Cherokee is this island that's at the very end of western North Carolina. You got convergence of Tennessee and Georgia, South Carolina.
By the end, the committee chair has to step in because the exchange is getting too heated. What we just watched wasn't just a policy disagreement, it was a cultural clash between a Republican administration that believes in enforcing the law, securing the border, and protecting elections, versus Democrats who want to frame everything through emotion and victimhood. Pam Bondi represented strength, restraint, and respect for the rule of law. Senator Welch represented a political class that's more concerned with optics than accountability. And this hearing showed us exactly why so many Americans, from Florida to Vermont, have lost trust in Congress. When Democrats spend their time grilling law enforcement officials about phrasing in letters and tone in emails, instead of addressing the crisis at the border or the millions losing trust in our elections, it shows where their priorities really lie. At the end of the day, Bondi proved once again why she's one of the most capable attorneys general we've had in decades. She didn't flinch, she didn't apologize, and she didn't let Senator Welch rewrite reality. If anything, she reminded the country that accountability isn't partisan. it's patriotic. If you appreciated this breakdown, don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and drop a comment below. What did you think about the Bondi-Welch exchange? Do you think Welch was out of line, or was he just trying to do his job? I want to hear your thoughts.